let's get this out of the way. The fix your game person, that's not a real player. Okay, this is a 100% cheater. It's not me being salty. It's not other people being salty. This is someone who is going out of their way to exploit the game, to show Konami that there's a massive bug with the game. They're not seriously competing. They don't, as far as I know, that the account they're using doesn't even have any cards. They are literally using a glitch that forces your opponent to surrender. So it's not even subtle. It's not like you get a disconnect error or you time out. It literally says you surrendered. So they have a surrender glitch and they're just spamming it to be in first place global with hashtag fix your game. So completely ignore that person when, me talking about how my rating is compared to everyone else on the ladder. So as if looking at this picture, I'm a knock is in first place NA. All right, KC Cup. Today in this video, I'm going to be showing you the best deck to be playing for the KC Cup. I'm going to be showing you highlights, and I'm also going to be talking about some of my thoughts about the KC Cup overall. Now, to get things started, the KC Cup at the start was an absolute disaster. Many people prepared to play the KC Cup at the start, like you should. That's how every KC Cup should be. You prepare to start as soon as the gates open. Well, the game was 100% broken for the first 2 hours of the KC Cup, so a lot of time wasted, a lot of frustration. A lot of people took off time from work, messed up their sleep schedule, all that good stuff. So not a good start at all. Definitely frustrated with that. Not happy about that at all. But anyway, the KC Cup starts, and if you guys don't know, the KC Cup right now is going to give you a trip to Japan, World Championship. Assuming the World Championship will be in Japan, like it's been for the past 2 years. That's what's going on now. So before, the KC Cup literally gave no rewards at all. And now first place global gets an invite. Now that's it may be like, oh great, finally a great reason to play the KC Cup. Wrong. The KC Cup is still a disgusting 72-hour grind fest. Completely unacceptable of Konami to still have this as a standard way to decide how people go to Worlds. So it's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. It's disgusting. It's a horrible, horrible system. And this is me criticizing it from someone who's performed very well under this system. I've gotten first place globals, first place NAs, but I was hoping that the game would evolve into this not being the standard. Maybe make it a 24-hour event, 2-day event even. Goddamn, 72 hours. Ideally, I think the event should just be limited duels. Give us 3 days, 100 duels. Now, goddamn, 100 duels is a lot of duels, but in the current system, you're going to need 500 to 600 plus games to get first place global. Even if you have a chance of making first place global, I feel like it's just not worth it. It really isn't. There is no player that exists that's going to be consistent enough and confident enough to get that first place global at the cost of their physical and mental health over a 72-hour period of grinding. It's absolutely disgusting. I think it's much better to just wait for the region rep qualifier where instead of first place global, it's top 16 global. Now, top 3 of your region, but 16 global. That's when you have a much higher chance of actually making it after sacrificing your weekend and a bit of your physical and mental health, that you have a real chance of going. Otherwise, among the top players, it's going to be so lucky whoever makes it. Now, I know someone's going to be like, DK, but Deck Master or Deck Maker, he got first place global in 2 KC Cups in a row. Yes, when there was no incentive to get first place global. Now, everyone has their eye on first place global. With all that said, I love the competitiveness of the KC Cup. It is truly the few times out of the year where I get to play against truly top tier players and have amazing games. And I get to have the fun experience of truly min-maxing and optimizing a deck to perform as best as possible for an important event. It's unfortunate that event happens to be a 72-hour grind fest. I love the KC Cup for, the example highlights I'll be showing you and all the opponents I got to play. I love tryharding. I love my opponents tryharding. I love myself tryharding. every KC Cup that I attempt really pushes me to play my best and make the best deck. So that's what I love it for. All right, so ultimately, what am I doing with the KC Cup here? As you could see, it's 11:30 at the top, so it's about 8 hours into the event from it being actually playable. So even though the start was bad, whatever, let's forget about that. I'm within 10 wins of being in a top global spot because, as I said, the Fix Your Game guy is a fake player. I feel for day one, that's a great finish. I told myself, if I go to sleep and wake up and the lead is too large, I decided it just would not be worth it for me to play anymore. Even if I have a chance, even a 10% chance, even a 15% chance to get that first place global, which I don't feel any player has higher than a 15% chance to get first place global, it's not worth it for my mental and physical health to sacrifice it for the rest of this weekend for this goddamn grind event. I would prefer to just prepare for the region rep qualifier while it is still a massive, nasty grind event that you actually have a real chance to get that spot for the world championship. And that's exactly what happened. I woke up and first place global is like 47K. So no, thank you. This is it. This is the best deck for the KC Cup, hands down. Now, there's a few controversial things with this, and I'll explain it, but this is it. This is the most consistent top-tier deck against every other deck in the meta going into the KC Cup. I haven't changed a single card from my first duel to the last duel. To explain this deck, the deck is about consistency and options. That's very important for me when playing a deck in the KC Cup. I need a powerful deck that's extremely consistent and has many options, and that's exactly what this has. So now we are using Cyber style with this. For every 1,000 life, we could summon a Proto Cyber onto the field, 1,100 attack. This is great for tribute summoning with Vampire Vamp. It's great for tributing with Econ. It's great for having an extra 1,100 damage on the field. It's great for even tributing for Grace or Crimson. So the only thing I would consider changing with this deck is maybe changing the skill to Sealed Tombs if you truly are only playing against Spellbooks and the Mirror Match. Many people are playing only 1 to 2 Gazukis. I am playing 3 Gazuki with 3 Samurai Skull because your main priority with this deck is turn 1, you want to Vampire Takeover. If you're not able to turn 1 Gazuki or Samurai Skull into a Vampire Takeover, you're at an immediate disadvantage. These are best of 1 games. You don't have time to go into game 2, game 3, 1 game, that's all that matters. Gazuki is also great for being sent to the grave by a Gazuki or a Samurai Skull to trigger, banish a zombie from the grave, and then special summon a zombie from your hand. We're playing 2 Retainer, 2 Familiar. Because of so many Gazukis and Samurai Skulls, you do not want to brick even harder with these, even though these are ideal cards to send from your hand to the grave to special summon themselves to get the searches off. We're playing the trio, Vampire Vamp, Grace, and Crimson. Now, a lot of people are playing 2 Grace. I decided to put in the Crimson because, all 3 of these are searchable, and Crimson plays around Treacherous and is great for the Mirror Match. I felt it was definitely worth it instead of playing a second Grace. Vampire Vamp is definitely needed. Search out to suck up Masked Heroes. You could suck up Dinah. You could suck up Amazoness Queen. And it's needed to win the spell book matchup because when they Silent Magician, you're going to have to suck up level 8 with your Vampire Vamp. So definitely needed. And then we are also playing Desire. Now, some people aren't playing Desire. Desire will help you resummon your Grace if anything happens to it. So because you're not playing 2 Grace, Desire becomes even better. This is just a consistent toolbox. These one-ofs that are searchable. I love it, and this deck is just so strong. I'm playing 2 Field Spell to ensure that our takeover is more consistent, and also usually do go through 2 Field Spells in a game. Playing the 1 Domain, of course, and the Enemy Controllers. Enemy Controllers, you may not think about this, but Enemy Control is really good. Turn 1, if you want to tribute off your Familiar or Retainer to take control of their monster, now you get to activate Retainer and Familiar from the grave. And also, Enemy Controller is just nuts, all right? Very good card. And with that synergy with Familiar and Retainer, it makes it even better, helps you win the Mirror Match. This is it. This is the deck. Just consistently go for a turn 1 takeover at all costs. And then if you want to destroy cards, you go for Grace. If you want to be protected from destruction, you go for Crimson. And if you want to suck up a monster bigger than 2,000, you go for Vampire Vamp. And that is pretty much it. That's the whole deck. Destroy, protect it from destruction, give the good suck, and just overall being ridiculously consistent. Enjoy the highlights. All right, so immediately if you see Yugi, you want to think tie that bind, so likely a for hire deck. And every for hire deck, expect them to open up with Wiz Sage for hire. So there's a lot of ways you're going to have to think about having to play around Wiz Sage for hire. One of the main ways to play around her is you lock them down with Grace in the field spell. So you want to get them into a position usually where they have one card in their hand and they continually keep discarding to negate the field spell until they eventually deck out or you top deck an Econ. All right, so Samurai Skull, dump Retainer. Retainer special summon on the field by sending Familiar, search the field spell, try to force out a negate, the final card in his hand. So, what I wanted to do here was simplify the game state. Force him to discard the card of his hand so I know when he draws in the next turn he will not be able to do anything crazy while at the same time clearing his field. As soon as he sets his card and we go to the end phase, that is great for us. We know he cannot negate our takeover. Takeover, play the field spell, special summon Retainer from the grave, Retainer, search for a domain. None of our spell or traps will be negated anymore. All right, activate domain, get that extra additional summon, tribute for Grace. Now, this is with our additional summon. If we did not pay 500 and then we were to get Treacherous Trap Hold right here, then that would be it. We would not be able to summon Gazuki. Retainer effect, search for Vampire's Desire. So what's great about this is really great. We did not even activate the field spell. He didn't negate it. He treacherous early, like he should have, and then we were just able to bring Grace back out on the field within the same turn. And there you go. Dealing with the Wiz, and we could still normal summon into Gazuki, but he's got a Mayhem. But like we said earlier, this is the lockdown. They are stuck like this. You keep milling out their deck, and they're forced to discard a card from their hand until you draw an enemy controller, or they draw a card that's not a for hire card. So we pretty much already won this duel. Lock them down. Easy peasy. Discard, discard, discard. And they will deck out. So I am starting to use my Gazuki effects now. The reason for me to use Gazuki effect is because I know that I have enemy controllers in my deck, and I need to draw into them. So I just keep like, goddamn, Gazuki effect. Where is my enemy controller? I have 2 enemy controllers in the deck. So I use Gazuki for the final time, knowing that I'm guaranteed for my next card to be enemy controller since they are the 2 bottom cards in my deck. There you go, Econ. This time I just popped the field spell, Chains Cosmic Cyclone. We got Econ for game. So a good example of how to control the for hire matchup with vampires. And then you also have Vampire Vamp as the follow-up if they were to summon a Dyna. So you want to also try to push them to summon Dyna, and then you summon Vampire Vamp and you suck up that Dyna. All right, so with Bandit Keith, you want to be thinking potentially heroes or spellbooks. Now, it used to be popular to play Bandit with vampires. I feel like that's fallen out of favor for Cyberstyle. There you go, playing heroes. So you always want to think that their back row is potentially a treacherous and or a mash change. So I summon my Samurai Skull on summon. I'm going to send a vampire from my deck to the grave, but he chalices it, which negates it. So I chain enemy controller to ensure that my Samurai Skull does not get negated. And I'm also hoping that it forces out a mash change, which it did. Great. Watch what we do right here now. Now the main priority is to go for Vampire Vamp. So with Samurai Skull, we're going to send our Familiar. Familiar is going to search for Vampire Vamp. And then at 3,500, we're going to pay 500 with Domain, putting us at 3,000, enables our Cyberstyle skill, summon a Proto-Cyber to the field, tribute both for Vampire Vamp. He sees what's happening. He scoops it up. So that would have been a 4,800 attack Vampire Vamp, and that was through a Chalice and a Mash change. All right, playing against Crowler. Now with Crowler, I'm thinking that it's likely, if you see Crowler or Kaiba, I'm thinking it's likely heroes with beatdown. Set 3 back row. So the great thing about Samurai Skull is Samurai Skull, so I keep pausing this for you guys so I give you some commentary. Samurai Skull, if he gets hit by Treacherous Trap Hole, you could special summon a zombie from your deck. So Samurai Skull is really safe for playing around Treacherous. And also with your Grimzin and Samurai Skull, great ways to play around it. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Treacherous Trap Hole. How do I play around that? I summon Familiar, search Grimzin. Now we'll talk about Grimzin once I summon it. We're gonna play Domain, get that additional normal summon. We are going all in on this. Pay 500, tribute summon, and there we go, we have Grimzin. If a Treacherous Trap Hole is activated, we could pay 2,000 life to pretty much negate it. Play that field spell. He does have Treacherous. We must pay 2,000. Cosmic Cyclone's a field spell, and we leave him at 100 life. We get that life steal gain off of our Domain, which is very good. He draws, he scoops. So that's an example of what vampires just going all in. You don't always want to just go for Vampire Grace. If you think they have a Treacherous will absolutely destroy your play if you go for Grace. So then you want to go for Grimzin instead when you feel like they have Treacherous. All right, so this duel is against the current rank 1 global player. So if you want to know what the rank 1 global player is playing, this is the duel. He's currently rank 1. So I see a Shizu, and I'm assuming Sealed Tombs. And because I'm assuming Sealed Tombs, I plan on activating my Takeover early in the draw phase. So I activate Takeover to not get countered by Sealed Tombs, because Sealed Tombs, you activate it in your main phase 1, then you and your opponent cannot special summon from the grave, nor can you banish from the grave. So I did not, and I wasn't sure what deck this was. It could have been anything with Sealed Tombs, and then we find out it's the mirror match with Sealed Tombs. That triggers our field spell. Mandatorily, we have to destroy our own card, because if we destroy Samurai Skull, he'll special summon from the deck. He's going for a Grace play. All right. Shoot for Grace. Sealed Tombs. Now, luckily for us, he called Trap. We don't have any other traps in our deck, so his field spell was not triggered. But now we are under the effect of Sealed Tombs. We cannot special summon from the grave. We cannot search with Familiar. We cannot search with Retainer. We're stuck. We're in a horrible situation here. Showing you how strong Sealed Tombs is for the mirror match. Pay for Domain, Cyber Style, with 1,000 life missing. Tribute off for Grace. Now we have to go for the field spell. Field spell for field spell, so before his field spell triggers, you're able to destroy it. Swing over the Samurai Skull, get a little bit of life point gain. Now the game is definitely in his favor. Triggers our field spell though, so that's very good. His Gazuki dump, I don't know if he forgot, but his Gazuki triggered our field spell, was able to destroy Grace. Familiar, send the field spell, searching up for Grimzin. Grimzin is amazing for the mirror match. Takeover. And then we got the Econ take for game. Grimzin's great. You pay 1,000 to protect any of your monsters from battle or effect destruction, so it protects you from the field spell, protects you from Grace. Very good. All right, so we're playing a Shizu again, and with being so tired through the KC Cup, I did not even see that balance was activated, so, and this was immediately after the other Shizu duel, so I was just like, all right, Sealed Tombs mode. So once again, I activate the field spell early. It does not have a negative impact in the game whatsoever, but that is why I activate it within his draw phase, because I do not want to get Sealed Tombs. Now, what are you thinking? What are you thinking when you're playing against a balanced player? You're thinking easy match, usually. Usually, anything at balance should be an easy match. It means they're likely not going to be a Saki deck or an OTK deck. Go for the Grace plays, into the Floodgate, Econ take. Now I'm hoping to force out Mass Change. Does not force out Mass Change. Because we have the Vampire Vamp, I wanted him to Mass Change, then we give him the good suck. Instead, we're just going to Tribute Summon off the monster we took. Going balls deep. Going to Vampire Desire. And all of that in a single turn to just bring back out the Grace. The delays are so important. When I feel no delay, I know that back row card's a Drowning or a goddamn Wall of D. We ain't taking the D today, boy. Pop that back row. Goodbye, Wall of D. Game. It just shows you the power and versatility of vampires, how you could pop stuff, suck stuff, summon. It's just very well protected. The deck has an extremely strong turn 1 play with Takeover. Let's see more replays. Cyber Style versus Cyber Style. Definitely expect vampires. Ultra Athletes are not so popular during this KC Cup. It's an extremely expensive deck and it is susceptible to bricking. You always want to think about going into a takeover at all costs. That's why we play 3 Gazuki, 3 Samurai Skull. We want a turn 1 takeover. All right, mirror match. Make sure to not flip takeover in response to the Samurai Skull. Now, if it was a Gazuki, you would definitely want to consider flipping over takeover to destroy the Gazuki. But usually it's best to wait for their Vampire Grace play. All right, looks like he's going for standard Vampire Grace. Like, you know, people got the combo memorized, and they don't really think how to play in the mirror match because a lot of people, they go deep into this Vampire Grace play, not even thinking. I haven't revealed any extra information this duel besides knowing when to activate my cards. So you want to chain Takeover to the field spell effect. You don't want to chain it to Grace. You don't want to chain it to Samurai Skull. You don't want to chain it any other time until his field spell is activating to destroy something, because that is when he's going to be forced to send a card from his deck. Potentially, he could send from his hand if he wants. That would be the correct play if you have a vampire in your hand, but if you send it from the deck, that is when you want to flip over Takeover to trigger your field spell and take out their Vampire Grace. All right, triggers our field spell, pop the Grace, get the effect of familiar. He just scoops like, listen, I did not even reveal any extra information. He's just like, oh, damn, that's how that works. So make sure if you're playing the mirror match to know how to use your Takeover. All right, Bandit Keith, you want to think spell books or heroes? Always go for Takeover. You see, you know, don't just play the field spell, set econ and end. No, go for the Takeover. You have a monster on the field. You have a setup for next turn if he doesn't force the Takeover. It puts a ton of pressure on your opponent, even if you have a non-ideal Takeover turn, which this would be it because you don't have a vampire in the grave to even special summon. You still want to go for it. All right. I have no idea what this is. You don't want to go too crazy. We don't need to go into any Crimson or Grace plays into Treacherous. Just poke them down. Now we finally have a setup for the Takeover. And it's a spellbook deck. Now the main thing with spellbooks is you only have to be worried about Silent Magician. So on summon of their Magician, if you go first, you want to econ take their Blue Boy. You definitely need to do this because if they tribute for Silent Magician, you are screwed if they know how to play correctly. If they get Silent Magician out, your strategy needs to be destroy that Silent Magician at all costs. Make sure that 3500 thickness comes to the field so you can give it the good suck of Vampire Vamp. Otherwise, if they're able to sit with a regular Silent Magician and you can't get rid of it, you're going to lose. Now make sure you have your toggle set on to do this play. If your toggle set to auto, you cannot do this. You cannot activate Takeover in the end phase after econ taking because you cannot use Takeover if you have a non-zombie, which was the Blue Boy. So after giving the Blue Boy back with your toggle on, you're now able to use Takeover. Going for Crimson, that's the great thing here. You don't want to go for Grace. He likely has a Treacherous Trap Hole with nothing in the grave and 3 back row. You want to play around Treacherous. Shoot off for Crimson. Easy. And as soon as he sees Crimson, his entire strategy is over. It's completely hopeless. So This is why you definitely want to play Crimson. Crimson's great for the mirror match. Crimson's great against Treacherous Trap Hole.